What do we do? Where do we go? Where we go is the only thing that has ever toppled autocracy anywhere, including here, which is sustained, direct political action.
Welcome to People in Common. I'm Jema Adams. This is a podcast where we talk to leaders about connecting their personal stories to what's happening in this moment. What are we supposed to do? How do we translate values into action? How can we be people in common? Anat.
Yes.
Welcome. I'm so delighted to have you on People in Common today. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I want to do two things with you. Number one, I want to explore your why and understand and get to know you and your work. And I want to make sure everybody else gets to learn about it too. The other thing is a bit of a how-to. The reason I wanted to have you on the podcast is because you are someone who is doing it. Values into action. Let's make this happen and let's talk about it. So those are the two goals. And I want to start with just an introduction. So first, Anat Shenker-Osorio, welcome to People in Common. You are a political strategist and communications researcher for progressive campaigns. That is one of the things you are. I would also say very brave, very strong, hilarious voice. Somebody who is, as you say, fearlessly fighting fascism. I want to talk about T-shirts. Let's get the movement going. Let's get the swag going. Where do you want to start? I want to get to know you a little bit and let everybody kind of learn how you came to this work, where you find the energy, and want to start there.
Okay. Well, normally when people ask sort of, why did you start doing this? I tell a story of being in kindergarten. My parents sent me to kindergarten at 4. We moved to the States, and my parents' estimation of the U.S. education system was not very high, and they felt like I could handle kindergarten at 4.
She's right.
It was just kind of...
I mean, they were probably right to their credit.
Well, and, they wanted me out of the house. They wanted free school. When my kids graduated out of preschool, I used to say all the time, I'm like, oh, thank God they're leaving preschool and going to free school. So happy. So they wanted me to go to free school, and this is how old I am. The teacher had given each of us a notebook, a very special notebook, and that was going to be our journal. And my notebook, everybody's notebook had a different cover, and my cover was from The Muppet Show, and it was the sort of
Should we
cast.
sing? I mean,
it was the cast. And it was Animal in the middle with his drums, and they were like a band, and it was like sparkly.
For all of those
it's like
Animal
a
fans
sparkly cover. I was so excited about this. And this was in an era in which like this could happen. So she gives everyone their notebooks, and she leaves the room because she gets called over the intercom by the principal. And she says, okay, I have to go. She leaves us alone. And she says, while I'm gone, like draw something on the first page of your journal, because like some of us know some letters, but some of us like can't write or whatever. And the minute she leaves, this group of kids, mostly boys, starts basically picking on one boy. And they're making fun of him, and they're laughing at him, and they grab his notebook out of his hands, and they're like playing keep away, and they're like ripping pages out of it. She comes back. He's like totally distraught. He's crying. And she's like very angry. And so she collects all the notebooks. She takes all of them. And she says, none of you will have these notebooks because of this behavior. And I spoke up and I said, but not all of us did this. And she said, did you speak out? Did you try to stop them? Did you talk to other people about why this was wrong? I was like, no. She's like, well, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And that's my first That's like the memory, my earliest school memory.
Huh.
And that's basically the answer to all of the questions.
I mean, right. My kids get to learn these days, right? My kids are upstanders. If you are not, right? If you are not standing up, let's start with Maya Angelou, just because why not? Summon enough courage to stand up for yourself, and then summon enough courage to stand up for somebody else, right? Like that was, your teacher's mantra. This is a great metaphor for what's happening in the world right now, potentially. And it does explain a lot about how you approach all of the things. Tell me, make that connection super directly to the 2025 state of the world.
Sure. I'll first just throw in to the rest of the question, the kind of thing that I try to use in my brain to keep me going is a saying from a commentary on the Torah, which are the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, the Jewish Bible, from a thing called Pirkei Avot, which is the sayings of the Father, which in English translates to, "It is not upon you to finish the task, neither are you free to desist from the work." And so the idea there, not to be too grandiose about it, but is pretty much the same idea that Martin Luther King Jr. espoused when he was saying that he foretold his own death and that he wasn't actually going to see the promised land, that he had this dream, but he didn't think that he'd be the one to reach it. Or, Moses knowing that he was going to do this wandering through the desert for 40 years and still not be the one to actually reach. Anyway, the point of the story being, the direct tie to what I do now is, at my best, I hope, and these are the words of comms expert Holly Minch, I try to help do-gooders do better. So what I try to do is I try to take people who want to be that choir, who actually do understand that a message is like a baton that has to be passed from person to person to person. And if it gets dropped anywhere along the way, it is by definition not persuasive. A message that nobody hears cannot persuade them. That feels like a pretty straightforward declaration. And so a lot of times in our politics, and especially in professional politics, in party circles, in all the places where most of the money sits, we have this really calcified idea of messaging and of message testing, which is really deeply flawed and problematic, which is that we're going to somehow fine-tune or calibrate or conduct, 100 different survey experiments, which by definition force people to think about things they wouldn't have thought about because you're raising them to their consciousness in order to elicit an answer from them. We're going to find these magical 100 words that get this, quote, median voter, when the entire purpose of campaigning is to both alter the composition of the electorate, to change who is going out and voting, and therefore
actually motivate people to come out.
Motivate people to come out. And therefore, there is no fixed median voter because every election is a different collection of people voting. And so even if we could ascertain some sort of median position, which is very silly, that would be a different person every time because it's a different collection of total people. And people are actually persuadable. People change their minds. And so the work that I do is, I hope, about taking the people who actually do want to try out this experiment of having a democracy, since we never have, the ones who think that maybe that'd be a good idea and we should try it sometime.
I'm super excited about that idea. I'm in. You've already got me.
Yeah.
It's on.
Well,
yes.
I figured you'd be a tough sell. So I went into this really trepidatious. That maybe we should try that since we never have. And to help those people, whether they're working on immigrant rights, whether they're working on human rights, whether they're working on getting, weapons of war off of our streets, whether they are working on having water we can drink and air we can breathe, whether they're working on people being able to actually be paid for their work, to put food on the table and get home in time to eat it. I try to help those people do a clearer and more forceful job of communicating their message such that they could A, break a signal through the noise, and B, actually shift more people over to being activated on that topic and more people over to sharing our worldview.
I mean, the messaging and sort of, I feel like in this moment we get super caught up in the what are the right word? If we only had one right word, or if this tiny thing was changed. I think one of the things that's so compelling about how you approach life and messaging and sort of this political moment we're in is the bigness of it. I love, for example, we're going to link to people can read this themselves, but your latest piece in the Rolling Stone was all about public action is the only thing that has ever actually moved the needle, right? That it is not, right? It is not, you are yourself a pollster, and yet you are very against some of the sort of, let's just, it's sort of, I think what most people look at polling and say, this is such an odd and very divorced from reality kind of an activity generally. And so I guess what I'm wondering is why are you so different from so many of the folks who are your peers and who are your contemporaries? And what is it that's going to make the difference for people to understand that it's bigger than that?
Yeah, I think, my original joke title on that piece was "Public Opinion is Meaningless. I should know I get paid to measure it." And the problem is that you only get answers to the questions you ask, which should be obvious. But there is validity and utility, and maybe I just need to tell myself this so I can sleep at night. But there is utility and validity to listening to people. I think there's a special utility and validity to listening to people in settings like focus groups, even though those are artificial. All settings that we construct are artificial by definition. We're making people talk about a thing that they wouldn't be inclined to talk about unless we made them. There's a conceit there. You can't help it. That's how research is. To listening to how people are making sense of what is going on, and to understanding, as we try to do, not where they're at, but where they are capable of going. How it is aided by our words, our images, the order of our words, our repetition, the symbols that we present to them, we could actually bring them from an oftentimes unhelpful place to where we actually require. And so a lot of standard polling is temperature taking. This many people approve of this. This many people disapprove of that. This many people are into this policy. This many people are into that policy. Here's a list of issues. Which is the most important issue to you in the election? That question in particular, I'm like, save yourself a spot. Save yourself some money. It's the economy. People
stupid.
People like back rubs and why are you asking? I can tell you the answer. The answer is yes. Puppies are cute. Why are you pulling that? So people will do this testing, and I don't know how much you mean me to go into the weeds, so feel free to stop me. But basically, if you're asking, this is message A, does it make you disapprove of Trump more? What you're engaged in is a fiction, because you possess no actual ability to present message A to people as a captive audience. And so there's been a broad recognition in politics for a while now that we don't have a distribution mechanism, and the media is so fractured, and they have a right-wing echo chamber, and we do not, and it's impossible to get something through, and even the so-called mainstream media is actually just shilling for fascism. We keep making these critiques, and that's all true. But when it comes to the moment of message testing and deciding what it is we should say, we make believe that those critiques are not in place. And we're testing messaging according to a 20th century model of politics. It's fine.
Where there was a captive audience, basically. So where people were listening to 3 network TV shows and that was it.
Yeah. That you can put your 30-second ad on Walter Cronkite and everyone will see it because that's what everybody's watching. When in fact, now what political messages are is what all ads are, which is an interruption from what I actually want to be listening to. Like, you're actually annoying me. This is the moment when you annoy me.
Yes.
Yeah, like by not being the Real Housewives or by not being HGTV or by not being, whatever. Which is why effective communication is embedded. Now, the way that they embed it on the right is to have figures like Joe Rogan, and this is why the left, because really we're just like a bunch of band camp kids who just keep looking over at the jocks and being like, oh my God, they're so much cooler than us. They do things so much cooler than we do. Like, why don't they like us? Let's be like them. It's really a lot. Like, everyone needs to heal
and when you say that, you're talking about sort of the left, liberals generally, just okay.
Yeah, everyone needs to go heal their middle school trauma. Like,
oh, wouldn't that be nice? Oh God, the world would actually be so much more wonderful to hang out in if everyone could just get a hug and move on from those deep wounds. Yeah. Okay.
So when we are asking, see, I didn't lose the thread. When we are asking,
I'm very impressed.
I played
already.
message A and I played message B, and you know that you're being studied. Like, not only did I make you pay attention to it, but also you're aware that I'm about to ask you a question. So you are observing this consciously. And then I find out that message B is the one that like moved things on the horse race needle or increased approval or increased disapproval. But given that I think any logical person knows that there is absolutely no correlation, none, between widespread public approval or disapproval for something and its likelihood of passing as public policy. I mean, this is why the polling, it's like, ask yourself, why do we care that 83% of Americans, depending on how you phrase it, favor some measure of common sense gun safety? It depends which policy, depends whatever. We're talking in the 80s. We're talking the vast majority of gun owners. Most Americans approve of abortion. Most Americans want there to be some sort of Medicare for all sort of situation. Most Americans want education to be better funded. I could go on and on. Most Americans want most of these things that we do not have. And so why are we interested? Why are we sort of hanging our hats in a campaign sense on the majority opinion when the majority does not want these robber baron broligarchs to steal our money in order to line their own pockets? That is not what most people want. It's not even what most Trump voters want. And so the question, sorry.
No, I think so there's a few things in here that I want to highlight. That the first, you already said, we haven't had a representative democracy that actually translated things people want. In the majority of people want these things, that is translated into policy. And I've heard you speak eloquently about how that is the reason that let's go save democracy, or hey, I mean, if we'd reduce everything about the last election, about the 2024 election, it was a throw the bastards out election, and we were the bastards, right? We were the side of status quo and democracy. When we talked about it, what does that even mean? That's a bunch of institutions, that's some buildings in DC, not sure. And so if that's true, then we can't be looking backward. We have to be looking forward, and we have to be defining what it is actually we do care a lot about, what it is that we can do together. And that's where people in common is very focused on. How do we do really hard things? They can be hard, but we have to figure out how to do them together, and we have to have a little fun. I mean, a better party, right? A better kind of aim that we're going for here. So I guess let's go back to where we are is pretty clearly. I don't think there's really a lot of people who are looking at what's happening in the current state of affairs and saying, I love this, everything about this, how these leaders are such good, honest, upstanding leaders who are fighting for me and I feel really represented. Literally, that's a very shared, I think everyone can agree. It's kind of an S show right now. I want to give you the floor for all of the ways that you are savvy about how to talk about what's actually happening, and then what do we do to change it?
Yeah. So I think that first we need to recognize that a lot of us have been operating in a theory of change that is a total fiction. And that theory of change, without stating it, has been that we're going to vote our way to democracy.
Oh, man, I wanted that fiction. I was in Arizona for the month plus before the election, running through that tape and we were going to get everybody we could to vote. That's a hard one to let go.
I'm not saying to let go of it entirely. We do need to have elections and we do need to elect better leaders, full stop. And I am not a both sides are the same person. I can't even with that argument. Like, that argument is total and complete nonsense to me. 2 weeks before the election, my oldest child came home and he said to me, in our house we speak Spanish, and he said to me, Oye, vamos a votar por Presidente Glock? Hey, are we going to vote for President Glock? Meaning Harris. And I said to him, oh yeah, we're going to put on white and we're going to take selfies. Because if we don't vote for President Glock, we're going to have President AR-15. And he was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, but that is what it is. That is what it is. Because that's what
I've never heard that metaphor before, but way to go to it.
That's what she was selling people. Those are her words, not mine. Like, that's what she was telling people.
Like, you come to my house and I've got my Glock.
Yeah.
That
was a big part of her shtick.
Yeah.
So, because whomever decided that Americans would really only vote for a man. And so they were like, how do we make her sound like a man? Basically, is my take on that.
Interesting.
That's my take on that.
On the gun specifically, or in a bunch of different, you think
a bunch
there's lots
of things,
of ways
but how do we present a version of recognizable masculinity such that we can hide the fact that, or like
to make people feel okay, who need to be voting for a man, to make people feel okay voting for a woman but don't worry, she's manly.
Yeah. Or she represents this kind of strong man energy. And she will protect you. She will protect you. Because they were going up against a strong man, because that is sort of the essence of authoritarianism. Like, that is the...
Right. Don't worry. It's super scary out there. Everything's coming. Everyone and everything is coming for you, and daddy's got you. And so she had... Oh, interesting. And at the same time, you wrote an article about the politics of joy and leading with her laugh and making and poking fun at the authoritarians, which I know, if we study this is the one thing that brings over, like, that really kind of gets under the skin and eventually topples dictators, is making fun of them.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm walking
yeah.
circles around what you asked me, and I'm sorry about that. I'm a storyteller.
Sorry,
so there I just got involved in my own stories. I will answer the question. Answer the question.
Yes. See, look, she's a person too. It's fine. We're just, we're practicing what we preach.
Were there
and
suspicions
also falling in
that
the traps.
I wasn't a person? What was I in this universe? Was I AI?
You were a guru, a messaging guru. Right? You're a strategist. We could never fall victim to any of the normal people things, right? No.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That theory of change, that we're going to vote our way to democracy, says, we're going to elect Democrats. They're going to have the majority, or at least they're going to have some seat of power from which to push back against this. And, we won in 2018. We won in 2020. We staved off the worst of it by winning quite a bit in 2022. I spent a lot of my career, especially in recent years, getting Democrats elected. When you say this is sort of a painful reckoning, hi, I'm there. And
you're feeling pain.
I think until we fully recognize the source and the extent, the breadth, the depth, the longevity of the problem, and that problem at least stems back, it goes back farther than this, don't mistake me, but at least stems back to the Roberts Court. Notice I don't say Supreme Court, but the Roberts Court.
I did notice that. Why don't you? Yeah, just to make it clear.
I don't, because it's not the Supreme Court. First of all, it's not all the members of it. I often just call them the MAGA justices on the court or the Roberts Court. It's because the Roberts Court puts front and center in your mind that these are mere mortals. These are not sort of the august pillars of the columns before this storied building who are the right and just and, omnipotent deciders
coming
of what
down from
is
the clouds,
coming down from
obviously the word of God.
Right.
Yes.
When, of
Got
course, how could we possibly believe any of that about any Supreme Court when the Supreme Court is a body that decided Plessy versus Ferguson and then decided Brown v. Board? Decided Comstock, then decided Roe, then decided Dobbs. The notion that these are somehow saintly, never wrong, never change. The basis for interpreting what happens with our laws and with our Constitution lies in we the people. Otherwise, there is no democracy. That is kind of fundamental to the core of the entire enterprise.
And it was designed with the checks and balances and designed with the idea that mere mortals were going to be carrying these things out and needed to be checked.
Yeah,
right.
Correct, as we're seeing now. So I think it's both about recognizing that at least, if we want to just take the most recent example, the decision that I call Corporations Unleashed, which people unwittingly just parrot by calling it Citizens United. Hi, you can call things what you need to call them. You don't have to call them by the official name. Corporations Unleashed basically made it possible so that you could purchase yourself a politician and with it policy. And that's the reality that we are in. And that reality extends past one party. It is the makeup of our political system. And as you were saying, most people have the feeling that this is just a fundamentally rotten thing. And so the question of what do we do? Where do we go? Where we go is the only thing that has ever toppled autocracy anywhere, including here, which is sustained, direct political action against the sources of power and in a way that leads from and reveals that we have the moral high ground. And so those ideas, on the one hand, about joy, you were sort of paraphrasing. I often tell people, if you want people to come to your party, you have to throw a better party. So we have to be in the business of throwing a better party instead of just, pushing back and saying immigrants are not taking your jobs. Immigrants are not a threat to you. Immigrants are not or conversely saying immigrants do jobs that nobody wants. We require them to grow our economy as if they were objects for our use and consumption. Or a third narrative in which they are hapless victims, right? And look how sad it is, and look what they've escaped, and look at how horrifying, and this is horrifying, and that is horrifying. Let's tell the truth here, which is that immigrants are awesome. Let's have 100,000 food trucks in a caravan to the DC Mall. Let's have a dance party with all of the sounds and all of the rhythms of the many, many, many places. And let's make it clear, first of all, who immigrants are, what they're about, that, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. It takes courage and tenacity to pick up everything and go to a new place. We are supposed to think that America's the land of the free and the home of the brave. And so that's a good thing. Let's make it that way. It's seizing the proactive idea and not allowing our campaigns to be defined in opposition to the opposition, but rather actually saying what we're for. And then showing, not telling people that this is what the majority of Americans believe and desire. Because one of the most difficult things that we have going on is that we mystifyingly keep telling Americans that our ideas are unpopular. That,
the our, define we in that sentence.
So, for example, immigrant rights groups tacitly telling the American public that Americans hate immigrants.
Got it. But basically meeting somebody. So always reacting, always buying the entire narrative arc and just trying to kind of tamp down whack-a-mole kind of, that one's the most offensive, so I guess I have to do that one, but really ignoring everything else. Instead, call it what you want. Join the dance, create a dance party, be more fun, be more joyful, be serious. I'm all for serious and professional and dance parties. And there is no way that there's no problem with having both at the same time. Okay, good. We can just even leave it there. That's like the mic drop. I'm like, okay, good. So that is so relieving and makes me feel so much better about how we're going to go about the next decades that it's going to take.
The t-shirt that you talked about at the top is not, the suggestion that I made is not fearlessly fighting fascism. I would never tell people fearlessly because it just would bring fear to mind. It's fabulously fighting fascism. That's what the t-shirt is.
Oh, I've got it so wrong. Look at, see? And I'm just trying to illustrate your point, Anat. You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I just bought the narrative.
And I'm just, I'm just...
Fabulously. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't think of an elephant, right? Your point is that's leave all of that behind. That is not helping anyone. It's go do what you do. Care about what you care about.
Like, I
do it
have
louder.
This vision of very, very cheap billboards. Billboards in rural parts of our country are very cheap. You can get billboards for like $500 for a month, for 3 months. Like, there are places where nobody's spending money on a billboard. And what I want to see is, like, in all of these spots near highways, billboards full of people just like living their best life, having themselves a very good time across the gender spectrum, across races, across beliefs, across creeds. And it just says, be more fabulous. And maybe eventually then it says fight fascism. But even if it just said be more fabulous and it presented, that joke, like, this is the America that liberals want, or this is the America the left wants, and they'll show some thing that, like, I look at it, I'm like, yeah, you're right. That does sound good. Like, everyone has healthcare, like, guilty.
I'm in. Healthcare,
yeah,
I'm
like,
in. Yes.
What a freaking horror show. Like, kids are...
I do want people to be able to go. Yeah, to school.
Kids are happy, and they're like...
to go to the hospital
if they want to wear nail polish, they wear nail polish. Sounds good. Like, I don't care. Like,
I think that I want to ask you about that exact point. Whenever I come across folks that are real twisted up about, I want to ask, for example, kids of any gender wearing nail polish. Why do you care so much? Next. I don't, why can't that be the response for so many things where I'm asking seriously?
Yeah. So as much as I understand that desired response, and I possess that desired response too, you can't argue people out of their feelings.
So true.
So
true.
That's true in relationships. It's true in politics.
I was just thinking
people
that.
have the feelings that they have. That doesn't excuse their behavior. That doesn't allow them to sort of, but if you're actually meaning to persuade people, as opposed to kind of dismiss them or persuade the people watching, which can be a technique. Like, you can choose to say something to an antagonist who isn't going to change their mind for the purposes of the audience to witness it, because maybe there are conflicted people in that configuration. And
dismiss on purpose to show that that's right. That is a strategy if you are in a public, but it's not a persuading strategy, which is makes a lot of sense.
And so if someone is like, this is like a terrible whatever, how dare boys paint their nails?
I love
or
that
like
voice. Back to Animal. Speaking of the Muppets, you had some.
I watch a lot of focus groups. I watch a lot of focus groups.
I thought you were going to say the Muppet Show, but also focus groups.
No, like, I know these people. I watch them. I've seen them say these things. I often tell people focus groups is like watching Fox News with no hair and makeup. And so not all the focus groups. It depends on the makeup. It depends who's recruited, like obviously, but certain ones. So what you say to that person is not like, why do you care? Like, what's your problem? Because they're going to be like, why don't you care? Why don't you care about the denigration of the moral code? Why don't you care about boys being able to be boys and girls have, like, why don't you care? You can't tell people they should or shouldn't care about a thing. Like, you're not the care police. So instead, what you say is you back them up and you say, when you were growing up, was there ever a thing or a time, and maybe it wasn't even when you were growing up, even later, where you felt like people were kind of putting you in a box?
Ooh.
And making you
Empathy.
have to behave a certain way or speak a certain way or dress a certain way. And that's not really what you wanted. And having done this, I can tell you that it is an extraordinarily rare person, even having done this with cis, white, older men. Like, they routinely were like, I remember being told boys don't cry. And I remember that I was really upset once because, like, I lost this stuffed animal. And I remember my dad getting really mad at me. Like, people have visceral memories, all sorts of people.
Or that little boy in your notebook story, right? Like, everybody has a story like that, and you're asking people to tap in to when you were put. That's interesting. You said put in a box, or told you couldn't do something, or bullied. Is there a reason not? Yeah. You're asking them to tap into the time that they were in that position, which flips the narrative completely from, ew, this other who is doing this thing that hurts me directly, to there but by the grace of God, or I remember that, right? Like, you're tapping into religions all have a way of doing the same thing.
Yes.
Right?
And it's also that the why do you even care message, you're leaving on the table whether what's going on is good or bad. You're leaving uncontested that. You're
their
saying
behavior.
It's
you mean
like,
okay.
You're not actually defending boys wearing nail polish. You're saying, as like a fine and even possibly good thing, you're leaving that alone. You're not actually defending the position. You're just saying you should not pay attention to this. You should not care about this. And, I know I'm going very far afield, but like, we should have learned this lesson, because this was the lesson of making the decision a long time ago to fight for abortion care on the basis of privacy versus equity, which was a choice made in the 1970s for obvious reasons in order to appeal to the libertarian side of the spectrum and to try to make a more right-wing argument, my body, my choice, U.S. out of my uterus, get your laws off my body. And the issue with making that argument, instead of making what would have been a much bolder argument, which is like, are you fucking kidding me? Women have sex. People have sex. Why is it that men can have sex and like there are no consequences, and women cannot have sex without consequences? That is a fundamental inequality that is like not fitting. Like, it all could have been argued differently. And instead, the choice, I know it's hard to imagine. Instead, the choice.
I'm literally clicking in the 1970s and then trying to imagine even now that argument. I see great signs. Going to protests recently has been the joy of my life, and such creativity, creativity flowering on the signs, and some of them, I'm not old enough to have a therapist, but I'm old enough to have a baby. I'm, hands off my uterus, all the kinds of those arguments are starting to get made. But even in 2025, that argument still sounds
totally radical,
very bold.
Yeah, I know. Let's admit that women have sex. Like, God forbid. I know. It's a lot. It's not like an entire television and movie industry is made out of it. Like, let's introduce it.
That's a very good point.
Let's introduce it as a brand new idea. It's revolutionary. No one thought to monetize it either. Like, I mean, this is how deep it's all nonsense. And so
how did we get here? Yeah.
And so the point of me bringing that up is that when we are arguing from a libertarian framework, which is like, why do you care about this? Like, leave this alone or whatever. I mean, it's clearer in the abortion case. Then that is paving the way for the Hyde Amendment, right? For the law that said that abortion is quote unquote legal, even though the majority of counties, this is way before Dobbs, didn't actually have an abortion provider, and insurance wasn't required to cover it. And the Hyde Amendment said that no, like, U.S. government funding could go toward it. And so you have this theoretical law, you have this theoretical right, but no actual way to access it, which of course is the, very, very cogent and critical critique of the reproductive justice movement, the Black women-led sort of clapback to traditional kind of white mainstream feminism. And I would go a step farther and say, my child, my choice is what paved the road for school choice. I mean, Frank Luntz literally picked the name school choice because he wanted a way to make vouchers, to make the privatization of arguably the most important collective social endeavor in which we engage, which is the rearing and the development of the next generation. Like, if ever there were a collective enterprise, I'm not sure what else is. Maybe just like the basic planet we live on and ensuring there is one. Those two things. And he needed to find a way to get people to turn against that. And so it became school choice. That's also the argument for not vaccinating your child. My child, my choice.
Which maybe we were just talking about this, but this is maybe the most successful thing humans have ever done together is vaccinate. The closest to, so all, finish your point.
Yeah. So my point is just, going back to the like nail polish or the broader example in which it sits, which is like, for a lot of people, it's hard to talk about issues of gender identity because they don't know a lot about it. It is new to them. They are unfamiliar, and maybe they're not even sure of their own position. New topics or topics that are new to individuals, because this isn't new, but it is new for a lot of people.
I think that's super fair.
It's more challenging. But what it always boils down to, and this is what we see anytime we construct a message and actually test it properly to see not just does it garner agreement, but does it actually shift people's desires for policy, and does it make them want to take action? That's what we measure for. When we boil things down to basically what is going on for people that this is an issue for them. What is the underlying thing? So instead of, for example, talking about crime, we talk about safety. And we know what keeps us safe. It's living in communities where we know our neighbors, where the people sworn to serve and protect us.
When do you feel safe? What does that look like?
And how do we create that for you? Because we understand that's what you want. In the gender case, people can understand, I know because I've witnessed it, that gender roles suck and that sort of gender constraints are constraining on
being in a box.
About being in a box. And that's why our messaging guidance in that, shout out to my colleague Jay Marcellus, who led up this work, in something we call the race, class, gender narrative, is all about the freedom to be yourself. And so we say to people, no matter what we look like, where we come from, what our genders, most of us want our children to have the freedom to pursue their dreams and be their authentic selves. But today, a handful of bullies and the billionaires who bought them want to make us fear each other. They think that if they can exploit our lack of familiarity with transgender people, they can take the money that our schools, our communities, and our families need. They hope they can get us to point our finger in the wrong direction when all too many of us know
at each other
exactly what it is to be under a regime that wants to control us and decide our futures for us. We decide how we look, who we love, whether and how we pray, not a set of broligarchs. So, like, you have to tap into what is the underlying thing and how can you make it clear to people that they use dog whistles and anti-trans siren songs in order to have a scapegoat. Because if they can get you to blame those people can be immigrants, those people can be welfare queens.
Right. They've been lots of different groups, but right now that's a really in this election, that was a very effective commercial, for example, for they, them, not for us.
Yes, that she's for they, them, and not for you. And it's the not for you part that people forget is what is truly potent. And so the antidote to that is not to be like, no, I'm not for they, them. Like, it's not to start throwing people under the bus, not only because that's morally wrong, but also...
Right. At first they came for trans people. At first they came... Right. This is the very well-documented kind of... It starts with the others and whoever that other is, and it gets closer. And a lot of people can ignore, right? If you aren't trans, if you don't have close people in your life who are trans, then it's easier to ignore. But the water keeps boiling, right? And that is not the first or the last group that will be in that position.
I see it differently.
Please.
I'm obviously very, very familiar with that saying. It comes from the Holocaust. And I understand its utility. I actually think it's problematic. Because it's telling people
please tell me.
That the reason that you should care about group X is because if you don't, it'll come to hurt you. The saying ends with, and in the end, there was no one left to stand up for me, to say anything for me, right? The idea is that if you let this happen to those people, then eventually it's going to come around to you and then you're going to be screwed.
Right.
Which is not an argument for empathy. It's an argument for self-interest.
Right.
And so I'm not saying, like, I would never say that or whatever. Like, I don't think it's problematic to that level, but I don't actually think that is the most persuasive rhetorical framework we should be living in if we are thinking big about the transformation that actually needs to occur in our society in order to get us off this freaking mouse, like this, because we're just going to keep coming back to this. Like, the Tea Party Trump is a symptom of this. The decimation of Reconstruction, like the, re-entrenchment after civil rights, like, we're just going to stay on this hamster wheel if we do not fully understand that life is a group project. And a lot of us grew up, me, hating group projects. But that's what life is. Life is a group project. The survival
and we are humans,
of humans is a group project. And we all have to actually internalize that. And so it's not so much that, like, if I don't stand up for so-and-so, then no one will be there to stand up for me. It's that people need to understand that the authoritarian worldview, the fascist worldview, is about controlling everyone who doesn't look, live, and love like them. It is about taking the wealth our work creates to hoard it for themselves. It is about telling you how you can talk, how you can dress, what you can do with your body, what your kids get to do, who you can marry, who you can hang out with, eventually the color you can paint your house, where you can go, where you can fly, where you can't fly, who can be here, who can come visit you, who can't come visit you. And it's about control. It is about having complete and total control in very, very, very few wealthy, white, property-owning hands. It is about a return back to the past of an inviolable, in a hierarchy where a very few number of very specific people get to tell everyone else what to do. And so the reason why we have to actually be loud, not just about egg prices, but fine about egg prices, but
including but not exclusive of everything else.
The abduction and I say the word abduction, not deportation, very deliberately, the abduction of people from their communities on the basis of their last name or their accent or their the melanin in their skin or their faith. The reason why that's not okay is because it is part of cementing permission to do that.
Control.
Yeah, it's about control.
And the literal opposite of freedom. I mean, I think what unites I think what unites all of the things that matter right now is the ability to have the freedom. That is a core American principle that I think we can all agree on. It's certainly it gets interpreted lots of different ways, but that is, and I think what you're saying, and I appreciate you detailing this. It is more that I coming back to Mother Teresa. We belong to each other. We've forgotten at this point that we belong to each other, but ultimately it is, we can't do this alone. This individualism and sort of it is a collective, whether we like it or not. This is, a human collective. What is the most important thing for people to do to act on that?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is to recognize that social proof is the most persuasive tool we have in our belt. And social proof is just the idea in psychology that people do the thing they think people like them do. And so when it is, quote unquote, just
peer
common
pressure
sense that, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, har, har, har. Like when that's just common sense that, a man can't marry a man and a woman can't marry a woman. See, I'm doing the voice again for you.
You're growling.
And that's what everybody believes. Then it's easier to believe that. Because it's the prevailing social norm. When instead, everyone believes that, it doesn't matter who gets married. Adults should be able to marry other consenting adults. And if you have a problem with that, then don't go to the wedding. Or get them something from off the registry they're going to hate.
Why do you care? I'm teasing you because you effectively threw that out, but right.
So when that becomes the prevailing social logic, then it is harder to argue with that. So the first thing that you can do is just actually wear your beliefs. Wear them. Like the antidote to that odious red MAGA hat. Does that mean a pin of the Statue of Liberty? Great, knock yourself out. Does it mean making yourself a shirt and a hat and a whatever that says fabulously fighting fascism? Bless. Is it a free America, which is I think a very, very strong narrative, the notion of free America from the billionaires, free America from the oligarchs, free America from wages we can't live on, free America from eggs we can't purchase, free America from going to the doctor and getting sick, worried about the bill, free America from all of this crap that is basically...
It's so simple.
It's very simple. It fits neatly on a hat. Yeah, and it's freedom, which is something I completely agree with you on. I've talked about for a very long time.
You have.
So, first of all, be louder about what you think. Put it onto your body in ways that other people have to look at and are like, oh, wow, I guess I'm not alone. Other people think that too. I suggested to people the billboard, if you live in a rural place, paint it on the side of your barn. Put it.
This is important where I live. Yes, there are barns. Some of them are falling down, but they can still be painted on. This is, yeah. And your point is make it loud and make it. I think a lot of people are nervous. Ooh, but my neighbor, and then is it going to shut off conversation? And am I going to piss off? And then how do you think about that?
How do I think about it? I think if you want to touch a nerve, you have to touch a nerve. First of all. Second of all, I think I mean, I'm tripping over my words, which doesn't normally happen to me because I just don't even know what to say about that. It's not your belief if you're not willing to talk about it.
It's time. If there were ever a time,
Again,
this is the moment.
If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. That is what I think. That is my
back
answer.
to your, yes, kindergarten teachers. I mean, and if you can't listen to a kindergarten teacher, then really, what are you doing?
I mean, what are you doing with
That's
your
where
life?
we all learned our stuff.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a lot of, I don't know what for that. Like, I mean, if it's your belief, then you need to be talking about it. Otherwise, like, what is it then? It's not your belief. It's your, like, pet theory or something. I don't even know. So I understand. It is scary. I get that. But I don't know. Life is scary. Like, and life is way scarier for people who are very much in the crosshairs. And so especially, I want to say, if you're a person who's, like, survival and existence and ability to remain living where you have lived with your family is not, at least as far as you can tell, in immediate peril. People are doing way scarier,
it's your time.
Way scarier things than you. Like, just
be bucked up by the people who are on the front lines. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're all about, right? Like, let's be inspired by those folks. I also think you said something interesting about tapping into there's a MAGA fear-based, right? Like, we're not going to win fear versus fear, right? And that's not part of the DNA. Like, I love being part of the freedom DNA. And so where's the FU, right? Is that the answer? Is the answer, like, tap into that part that doesn't like to be put in the box? Like, find that place in you and get brave and go join some brave people. And the social proof part is, look, there's a lot of us, so join the party. Like, this is the moment.
And also know that in studies of bringing down authoritarian regimes, what scholars, and I'm citing Erica Chenoweth here, have found, and it's not a magical number, it's just a, like, benchmark, that in societies in which 3.5% of the population is engaged in continuous, like, visible IRL, not just online resistance, there is no autocrat that's withstood that. That's 3.5%. And I understand that's still like millions of people in the United States, but it's not 50%. It's not 30%.
Right.
It's not even 10.
Right.
And so it's not that many people. It's really about a core number of people challenging what people perceive is conventional wisdom and is sort of the dominant ethos. But it is also people recognizing that the frogs are not in a hot tub. Like, this is, the water may feel warm, and you may be thinking that's perfectly fine, but, like, this ain't a hot tub. It's boiling water.
Look around, y'all. This ain't a hot tub.
And
free America. Get out of the hot tub.
Yeah, get out of the hot tub.
Get out of or not the hot tub. Shoot. It's all right. We got this.
Social proof. I feel like I'm not actually answering your questions, which is not nice of me. Join an effort that's going on. You pick the one that is going to be most meaningful to you, meaning the one that you'll actually stick with. Like, don't go. If I'm going to, like, get into exercise, like, there's no way in hell I'm going to go running. Like, I won't run for more than 3 minutes. Like, someone even chasing me, but I will, like, go dance salsa 3 to 4 times a week because I actually like dancing. So, like, pick a thing that you will want to keep doing or that you will be willing to keep doing. And so, look up the 50-51 protests, look up what's going on with Indivisible, look up what's going on with the general strike, look at the Tesla takedowns, and be local, be local, be local.
Yeah.
If you and 3 of your friends go to your next school board meeting, you will probably be 100% of people attending your next school board meeting.
I just had this experience, actually. Yep. I second that emotion. It's get out there to the school board meetings.
They don't go to the school board meetings. They don't go to the city council meetings, especially I'm talking about in smaller places. If you round up a handful of people to do that, you will take it over. And that is actually where the fascist agenda gets implemented. It has to be implemented at the local level in order for it to work. It's in your school that they decide to take out the books or not take out the books. It's in your school that they decide they're going to replace the curriculum or not replace the curriculum. It's in your city that they either are going to expand the detention facility or they're going to set up ICE raids, or it's in your city that they're not. And so it is in those places where you actually have way more say, because most people are not involved at all, that you can gather up a relatively small number of people. These town halls that I'm sure all of you have been witnessing and watching, obviously Republicans are going to stop doing them. They already said that they would because, they understand that.
Turned out people came to the town hall and said what they thought.
That's right.
Which is, we got to shut that down.
Definitely
you can't
don't
have that in a
want
democracy.
that
No.
to happen. Very bad idea. Terrible. And so keep doing them. Do them with a cardboard cutout at the front.
Yeah.
Make it even more poetic that this person, just make an image. You can.
Drama.
Yeah. And you will probably feel even more at liberty to say whatever you want to a cardboard cutout than an actual human being. Put stickers on the cardboard cutout of all the places they take money from. Put their sponsorships upon them.
Brought to you by.
Yeah. So local, whatever will sustain you, and show.
And together. Do it together. Yeah. That is exactly right. That is the inspiration for the moment. I think I talk to a lot of folks who are looking for that kind of super concrete to-do list, right? What is this moment? This moment is for get out there with some people you care about and take it over. Paint the barn. Anat, I am so grateful. This was incredibly interesting, as I knew it would be. I appreciate all of the super concrete. I appreciate getting into I love getting into the weeds and really exploring some of this stuff, but I'm just so grateful. Any last word?
The first time I ever presented in front of a congressional committee, I decided to stay because they let me stay for the rest of their business, and I'd never seen a congressional committee in operation. And what I found out watching it was this one is falling asleep, that one doesn't know what's going on, this one is texting, this one doesn't like that one, this one's mad at that one. And I thought to myself, and hashtag not all Democrats, fine, true, valid. I'm telling you. What I realized was, these are just people.
Turns out.
It turns out that this entire
silly old people.
This entire show is just being done by people. And I promise I'm getting to the wrap-up point. I then was having a conversation with a friend who was a stage manager and had at that point in his career ascended high enough that he was stage managing a show on Broadway. And he said to me, do you know what you find out when you stage manage a show on Broadway? I was like, no. And he said to me,
yes.
This one doesn't know her lines. This one is mad at that one. This one has, he's like, it's just people. Some of them are great. Some of them are super talented and amazing and whatever. Some of them are petty. Some of them don't know what's going on. Some of them are it's just people. The whole thing. I mean, this is the fundamental design flaw of humanity, is that humanity is governed by people.
We're made up of humans.
It's terrible. It's very poorly done. And so that joke aside, you're also a person. You are a person. That is what you are. And Donald Trump is a person, and Elon Musk is a person, and Chuck Schumer is a person, and even AOC, though she seems like she might be Superwoman, is a person. And you too are a person. And so you get to make choices about what you want to see in the world. And the things that you do in the world, the example that you set in the world, is what other people can see. And so you need to go out and live your life in the way you want your life to be, in the way that you want the world to be, in the way that you want to see other people doing. Because that's really the only way to make other people do anything, is to have them watch you do it.
Be the change. I'm thinking about all the people, but as moms, especially, we can tap into this. Is you got to be. You can't be it if you don't see it. So we got to go be it.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Fabulously fighting fascism every day. Everyone, Anat Shenker-Osorio, thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We truly appreciate your support and hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Until next time, take care and keep listening.